Welcome back, man, to another great episode of Comedians in Bed. I'm your host, Ty. I don't even know if I usually say that. I haven't been doing these interviews in a while. If you guys been seeing these interviews, I've been shooting them months and months ago. But we got my dude in the building here today. As you know, I always like to give a nice little introduction before we go ahead and get started. Now, I think one day I just happened to pop up at a show. I had never heard of this guy, never heard or seen this person. But when I went to their show, it was packed. Like it was packed. And I think he had his little boo thing. I don't know if his wife, girlfriend, and he had his daughter there. So he's a family guy. Not only that, he's making big moves in the city, man. And we will definitely get more to in that. And not only that, did I say more to in that? I'm sorry. I'm tongue twisted. I'm like excited for like today. It's tomorrow's Friday. Well, this show comes out on Tuesdays, but when I'm recording it, it's a Thursday, whatever. Anyways, I'm so excited, man, because this dude is so great, man. And he does like amazing shows throughout the city. And we're going to tap into it. Please, everybody, give a round of applause for my guest today, Terrance ThaGawdShow Davis.
Thank you. You're far too kind. Thank you. Hold your applause.
Live from the bedroom. This is where all the magic happens at.
This is where the magic happens. Sometimes it happens in the kitchen. Sometimes it happens in the living room. You know what I mean? But a lot of it happens here. Yeah.
I was like, that's a perfect one to use, man. Nah, man, I'm so excited to have you on this show, bro. You be out here like really doing your thing. First question I do want to ask, bro, how long have you had your dreads, bro? I used to have dreads too. Thank God I cut mine off. How long have you had your dreads?
So I started my locks back in like 2021.
Okay.
So it's been a while, but I have had a couple of like big chops. So like I want to say 20. What did I say? 22. Wait, let me start all over. 2001. Yeah. 2001 is what I meant to say. 2001 is when I had started them. And yes. It causes memory loss. But yeah, I started 2001. And then I had like a pretty big chop in 2021. Oh. I cut off like 7 inches or something like that. And I've had a couple. I think another time I cut off like 4 or 5. But yeah. I've had them for a while.
Bro, when you said 2021, I'm like, how the hell did your hair grow?
Hey, look, man. I know you've been on Instagram, the reels. You know, you've been on TikTok. You've been seeing people with the fakes. You know what I mean? It can be done. But this is all real. This is legit.
Bro,
it's a genuine article.
The fakes be pissing me off because it's like, bro, I went through the process and you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair,
right,
bro. Like,
right. I'll be seeing the dudes with the fake beards, you know, and I kind of envy that because I don't have enough testosterone to grow. Like this is when this just connected like 4 weeks ago. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've been trying to go this for 30-40 years, and we just finally connected. So
hey man, I had a barber that I don't know what he used. I did ask him, but I forgot. I want to say he said witch hazel, but he used something to like connect the corners right here because they just weren't connected. But like yeah, that too. But a question I had to ask you, like, have you ever heard of anybody like cutting off their dreads, saving them, then putting them back in?
I have. As a matter of fact, my sister, I have 3 sisters. 2 of them have locks, and she was actually just talking about that. She said like the process, they'll cut them off and then they'll like detox them and clean them and then reattach them. And that just seems kind of wild to me. I don't know if it's cheating or not. I guess it's not because it's your hair. You know what I mean? It's like a technicality. You know what I mean? But
when I found out, I was like, what? Like, so my the person I used to do my locks, she shout out to Miss Willoughby. I don't even know if she still do locks anymore. I know her daughter Mecca do them, but I think she do because I think she still do my mom's locks. But she was like, yeah, like I think the first time I met her, she had locks, and then she would just like take them out, like untwist them, take them out, save them, and then put them back in when she was ready to have them again. I'm just like, bro, what?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I like to be for real. I've been thinking about getting rid of them. I've been thinking about cutting them off. And if I
Man,
do, I'm gonna hold on to them just in case I need
I
to
had mine. I had mines for 6 or 7 years. They got like to the
uh,
middle of my back, and when I moved back to Columbus from Youngstown, I was just like, "Yeah, it's time to let it go."
yeah.
Cause like if I had to do it all over again, I would have got mine's palm twisted because
Hmm.
even though like the latch hook makes your locks look cleaner and fresher, like it does a damage on your scalp. Like
Yeah.
it's done. You might as well get palm twists because it just
Yeah.
the process of taking them out is just better. Like I don't want to say I had bald spots, but I had like a year or two where I had to get my hair back thick again because it was just
Yeah.
sticking out too much.
I've done a little bit of both. Like these are largely with the crochet,
Yeah.
and then I do the palm twist too. So I kind of bounce back and forth between.
Have you
So
ever
it's
had like the root be like real exposed and you put like a finger through there?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I've done that fairly recently. It was like, yo, this might be one of them right here. It's a little suspect.
Yeah, man.
Because
Look,
I'll tell you what people don't realize, man. Like if you get in locks or whatever, and you'll definitely relate. So the girl who has done my locks for years moved to Texas, and she
uh,
moved about like I don't know, like 2 months ago.
mhm.
And I was like, and then you starting trying to find somebody else, and it's just not the same. And then it's just like, man, let me just go ahead and
I
do
got
something
so
else.
I got somebody for you. I can
Yeah,
vouch for her. Yeah, I got
yeah.
somebody for you. I could give you her information after this, man. Yeah.
Okay.
Would
That's
you?
how I started. I was gonna say that's how I started the lock. So back in like 20 or 2000, 2001, I was getting like cornrows, this that
Okay.
because back then, the cornrows, what that was like popular, right? You could do that. And then the girl, I was living in Virginia, and then when I moved back, I moved to Columbus, and I just couldn't find anybody. I was in the shop every week getting them done, and then when I moved to Columbus, it was just so sporadic, and I didn't like it was looking ratty. So then I was like, man, let me just go ahead with the locks. And
Are you from Virginia or you just lived there for a little bit?
I lived there for a little bit. I'm from Mansfield originally, and yeah, Mansfield, that M up, and I've
Did you
been
go to
in
Mansfield
Columbus.
Senior?
No, I actually went to Madison. I went to
Okay.
Madison, but the majority of my people went to Mansfield Senior. So like all my cousins and stuff. So I was, rocking with them.
Hey, I
Um,
only know Mansfield Senior because I used to run track and I used to
oh
have
yeah,
Jesse Owens Classic. So I
oh
used to
yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah, for
man.
sure, for
When they told
sure.
me Jesse Owens ran on that track, I was like, I can't believe it. I can
Yeah.
definitely. I know y'all haven't upgraded that track in years, man. And then the back straightaway is just like it's a long 200 straightaway. So when they were running 200 meters, they just ran straight. I'm like,
Yeah,
hell no, I couldn't do
yeah, yeah. No, they have. I think they've recently redone it in the last like I don't know few years or
it.
something. But
Okay.
yes, it was in bad shape for a long time.
Bro, we couldn't wear regular spikes. They would give us spikes so it wouldn't mess up the track even more. I'm like, bro, why
Yeah,
are we here? Like,
yeah. Yo, it was just like concrete, a little bit of asphalt mixed together. Like it was bad. But
yeah,
I went out
man.
there. I played flag football with some homies, and I don't know. This was some years back, and I had saw at the track they had had the nice rubber cushion to it, so they had recently redid it. So
Okay,
I
okay,
don't.
all right.
It might be
Yeah.
bad again. They've been cutting them budgets. They've been cutting them school budgets. It might have been one and done. So it's been a
So
while.
Terrance, man, you are the first. I don't want to say you're not a comic because you are, but you are the first comic that I've had that don't only do comedy, you do improv too. And this
Yeah,
just isn't a show just for stand-up comedians. This is a show for comedic actors, improv people, whatever, anything
yeah,
comedy related. So you're the first one that don't just do stand-up. And I like that because I always tell comedians that two tools that I feel like you should have in your box to make you a better comedian is to be an actor or actress and to do improv. So
oh
what
yeah.
got you into improv?
Man, so improv, like most stories, I got into improv because I was in a bad relationship. And then it's in a bad relationship. Um, but yeah, you had to break out. And actually, my daughter. I had a daughter. The girl that I was dating, relationship ended, and it just stuff was just kind of weird, man. And then I felt like I was kind of in a, like in a slump, and I was like, man, I haven't done anything new in a while, and I've always been a huge fan of stand up. Like I'm a straight up stand up nerd, but I was always intimidated by it. I always felt like stand up was like that pretty girl that you went to school with. You was afraid to talk to her because I didn't want to get rejected, and so just decided, man, it's been a while. Let me try something new, and I took an improv class. And when I took the improv class, because that was, I don't know, kind of comedy related, stand up adjacent, if you will. So I jumped in there and really enjoyed it, and linked up with a crew like right away, and then like everybody's super talented. Then we started doing some of the improv circuits, the improv wars, won some trophies, and we just kind of started rolling. And from there, I've been doing stand up for just a little under a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
when you did the improv, was it in Mansfield, Columbus, or was it in Virginia?
it was in Columbus. It was in
Okay.
Columbus.
Okay. Yeah, man.
So
Like, my fault. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no, just it's in Columbus. I feel like I started a lot of the stuff like a little bit later. Like I didn't do improv when I was in like high school or any of that. Like when I jumped into it, it was definitely something new, something that I hadn't even really considered before. Cause like I'm like a jock, you know what I mean? Like basketball, you know what I mean? Like sports, And so the idea of doing some theater, some improv, getting on stage, that shit's had always seemed like super corny, honestly. Like, when I
Yeah.
was growing up. And then when I jumped in there, like just trying to do something new, I was like, yo, this stuff is fun. I really, really enjoyed it. So
Man, I would say that I was a theater kid growing up. I mean, I wasn't in no theater club, but I was definitely like a drama head. I didn't start playing sports
yeah,
till maybe the fifth grade, like after the fifth grade, maybe.
yeah.
So yeah, they came a little later. But I always say that I have improv experience because I grew up in a black household, So
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever received a call from a bill collector? You know what I mean? Gotta improvise, baby. The check is in the mail. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of improv you gotta do, you know?
But I did take an improv class once, and it was with Jeff Gage here at the Funny Bone. It was years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was like when I started acting, like 2017, so maybe 2018, summer 2018. I started taking this class. I only
Yeah.
took the first level. I didn't feel like I needed the second level. Not that I was like that, but like
Yeah.
I said, like I don't know, like I had talked to Shayna one day. Shayna had seen me made this joke like on the fly. Shout out to Shayna. And we was at Shrunken Head, and I had seen this girl's. I was sitting on the side waiting for my turn to go, and I was talking to Shayna, and I was like, bro, she got the thickest camel toe. Like it looks so weird. And then I went and then I went up there and I made a joke about it, but I ain't like say the comment. I was just saying like camel toes, and then I just came up with a camel toe joke, and then she was like, "That's just so crazy how you do that." And I'm like, "Bro, like I grew up in a black household. Like you got to learn how to be quick." So like, how
Hmm.
was like your upbringing? How does it like translate to when you do get on stage? Because I feel like a lot of people think like, okay, I'm gonna chase my dream, and then you know I'm gonna chase it, but like, and then I'll be like ready or whatever. But like, I feel like people get prepared for their dreams so many years in advance that they don't even realize it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like comedy was definitely huge in my family. So like my parents, they're like really, really funny. My dad is like kind of like slapstickish. My mom is really like dry, comic, dry humor, like really sharp and bitey. And so like just, like you said, growing up in a black household, I got three older siblings. we was always getting roasted. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like my dad was always like just roasting me. My mom was roasting me. And so like by the time I got off the breakfast table, you know what I'm saying? I had already put in like an hour or two of work, you know? And then, you know, you get to high school or middle school or whatever, elementary, you know, these little kids got some jokes or whatever. And it's like, man, this ain't shit, man. My pop's been running me through the ringer.
Yeah, man.
Uh, you know, and so I like, and you know, so now it's kind of like a term of you know, kind of showing affection. You know what I mean? Like we kind of roast some people, and that was
Yeah.
actually something I did have to learn a little bit as I got into the business, and then just also as you get as you get older, like not everybody is built that way. You know what I'm saying? So like you might see somebody, you know, you kind of have rapport, and you like, you know, you might throw a little jab at them, just playing with them, and oh, I can't believe you made a comment about my shirt. You know, it's like, oh, dog, I was just playing. You know, showing a little love. Um,
Yeah,
that was
I feel like people don't love me until they make a joke about me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like for real. Like I had to learn, you know, like that maturity to you know, be able to not always do that, you know, because the situations don't always call for, you know, a little roast. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but that was it. So growing up in my household, just doing that, and when I was a little bit younger, you know, like you get picked on, and that's really like how I felt like I learned that I was funny, or people thought that I was funny. So like I was in the back of the bus, you know, some of the upperclassmen, you know, they got some jabs at me, you know, trying to roast, and I was lighting them up. You know what I'm saying? I was lighting them up. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, let's not mess with Terrance in that way, because you know, like you know, he gonna throw him back,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
know, that's it. So
Let me write this down. Stand up. All right, we'll get to that next. So I've only been to two improv shows. The one that I was in for the class because they had like a showcase at the end, and then the second one was yours, which was like I think like last month or before that. I
yeah,
didn't catch all of it because I was out selling cocaine,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the part that I did catch, so it gives me like because there's no other reference to it besides like whose line whose line is it next anyways, or uh uh
Wild and out.
yeah, my fault. Wow, there. Thank you. Wilding
Yeah.
out. So, how do you come up with like the format of the show? I'm not gonna say it was all over the place. 'Cause I've never been to a show, but like I didn't know what to expect. So, like, how did you come up with like the segments? Like, how did you pick the people to do which part? Like, how do you come up or plan an improv show?
Yeah. So, you know, obviously, I think the easiest way, you know, if you are in a show, right, like as a stand-up comic, right, like you've been in a couple of shows, you've seen how some shows have been run, you see what you like, you see what you don't like, and then you produce accordingly, right? So, the show that you were at, and I got one coming up here in a couple, and actually next week is Black Friday. So I have stand-up, we'll have improv, and we'll have like a musical guest. And you know, because I think that all of those things go hand in hand. It's entertainment is what it is, you know. So when, you know, I like I always tell, this is probably not answering your question directly, but I always tell people like it's easy to get comedy, right? Like if someone wants comedy, you can go to YouTube, you can go to TikTok, you can go to you know, Netflix or whatever. And a lot of times, if you want comedy, you can get it for free. But to get people to pay $20, $15 in the drive, in the park, and to come to your show, you have to give them more than comedy. You know what I mean? You got to give them an experience. You got to give them a moment. You got to give them, you know, you, right? And those were all the things that I really love. I'm a big fan of music. I love stand up. I love improv. So why not integrate those things in the show? So the show that you were at, that was probably just slightly a little bit different, but we had two stand up comedians. Then we did you know, improv. Or I'm sorry, we had two stand up comedians. We had Dylan Burke, the Saxation, who's an incredible artist. He was a musical guest, and then we did some improv, you know, at the end of that to close that out. But that's it, man. It was just like being around and seeing certain shows, being a part of shows, and learning what you like, what you don't like, and you just kind of produce accordingly.
So you guys are just like I don't want to say playing games, but like,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
How do
Well,
you?
so were you asking? So like specifically like some of the improv games, right? So some of the
Yeah.
improv games. So those are um that's that. There's a couple different ways you can do it. So obviously we've all seen, or a lot of us have heard of, Whose Line Is It Anyway, right? Or Wild and Out. So how what I like to do is short form games, and so like some of those quick hitters that you see in Wild and Out, in Talking Spit, right? Like those types of things. And even seeing those games, you might integrate one of those into the show, or you just come up with something yourself. So I had a game. Um, I'm trying to think of we did something. We did a we did a wild game. Um, oh, it's called Love Story, or I'm sorry, Love Song. The game was called Love Song. So what we did is we had two people. We pulled them from the audience. We asked, has anybody been dating or married? And some people, I think they were celebrating their something anniversary. I don't know, 5th year, 10th year anniversary. So we brought them up on stage, and we asked them a couple of questions. We said, "Hey, how'd you meet? How long you been together? Do you have any kids? What do you do for a living? What's the thing you love about her? What's the thing you love about him?" And then after getting those questions, then we had the DJ turn on the track, and then we just made up a song on the spot. And so we just made up a song integrating those questions. And it can just be anything, like whatever the inspiration is. Like, you might see verses, right? The verses battles. We're going to make that into an improv game. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Josh Waddle, member of Hashtag, he put together an improv game based on Jerry Springer, which I thought was really hilarious. So it was kind of like a guessing game. It was like um, the person is in the seat, and then three people. What is the secret that they're telling you? And so they kind of improvise without giving the bit away, and then it kind of goes from there. So really, you can create improv games based off of anything. You know,
So how do you know if the game is good? Is it just when you guys practice, or you just give it a shot in the show, and if it has a good response, do you know it's good?
Definitely rehearsing. You got to practice. So I think improv, once you know the rules of improv, right? After you've kind of gathered that, like obviously we know the main rule of improv is yes and, right?
Mhm.
So the yes and, you take that notion, you agree with it, and you add on to it, and you just kind of build the scene from there. And so as long as you got that rule, then you can feel free to kind of play with that in any way that you want. If you want to do things that are kind of like small scenes, or if you want to do things like on freestyle, like that's a game that we've had. Like you'll be having a conversation back and forth. New scene, you guys are now battle rappers, and now immediately that is turned into a battle rap. Or new scene, 15 years in the past, or and you just kind of throw things around. But definitely rehearsal, right? So you kind of try some things out, and largely what you're doing in the rehearsal is working on the mechanics. So how
Oh,
does this game work mechanically? And you kind of set the boundaries there. So it's like, we're going to play a Jerry Springer game.
mhm.
We tried this part out, it didn't really work. So let's turn it into a guessing game. Let's do this. And then after you get those mechanics, then you can fly, because obviously it's going to be made up on the spot. The people are going to give you the suggestions, and you're going to rock from there. But the
Yeah.
mechanics are usually built, in a rehearsal, in a practice situation.
How often are you guys practicing a week?
Um, usually like to do once a week. Try to get 3 in before show. So um the show is on the 29th, so we were able to get like 2 prior practices in. So like the show's gonna be on Friday at the end of the month or whatever, so we'll probably get one in on Tuesday or whatever. So
So, like I said, I've been at one of your shows, and you are running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Are you producing all this by yourself, or do you have help? Or
yeah, no, um I've been producing improv shows for, like, I don't know, what is this? This is maybe like 5, 6 years, I think. So doing improv shows. But yes, the Black Friday, I absolutely running it 100% myself. Um, the really the So back in 2021, I did a big improv show. It was called Improv Again. And what I did is we had 40 improvisers, shuffled them all up, created teams of 5, and then had like a bracket style tournament. And that was probably I think that might have been the second biggest thing that I've done now. But that was like the biggest show in Columbus in 2021. You know, that was like, I had to thread the needle for COVID and all of that. They got like cable news coverage and all of that. So we had close to 200 people there and like all of that. Like it was a thing. And after you throw a really big show like that, which is crazy, everything else is so much easier, you know. Like I had done a couple of smaller ones, you know, you're looking like 60, 70 folks. And that was an idea that like I kind of wanted to run. Hashtag, they had done something like that in the past. And so running that, then that was easy. And I think if you're producing a show, the best advice I can give to anybody is if you're working with people, make sure you're working with professionals. You know, you can't always work with your homies because your homies aren't always going to be right for that thing. So if you got a DJ, you got to know that DJ is going to be reliable. If you're working with somebody who does some sound, or, you know, for instance, at that show, we had set some things up, and then my man Burrs, he came through, and he was like, I think it'll be better if you move the mics over here or whatever. He works for, you know, NBC, so he knows how video and the mics setup should be. So immediately I trust him to say, hey man, you know what you're doing, you do it. And, you know, and that way you can have faith, you know. So it's not necessarily a micromanaging type situation, but I run all of the stuff myself, the promo. I even did the shirts, you know, like all of that.
Like, are you you mean when you say do the shirts, you're pressing and printing the shirts and all of it?
Yeah. Everybody that was at the show.
How do you find time to fuck? Like, how do you find?
Yeah. It's back here. Sometimes I'm fucking while I'm pressing shirts. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, you see the bed is right there. I got my Cricut iron here. You know, it's right next to the bed. You know, so we're doing a little bit of multitasking, man.
I did not mean to hit the applause button. I meant to hit the laugh button. But bro, you're doing all this all by yourself. Okay, so all right, so I have so many questions. All right, so like first, how are you booking the venue? Like, we know how to book venues. You reach out, all that type of stuff. But like, since it's an improv show and it's interactive, like, is it like, how do you go? Like, how do you know which venue is going to be like a good venue for you? Because I've seen you had a show at the Key, and then I seen you had a show at the Attic, and they're both two totally different spaces. One is big, one is small. So like, how do you pick venues?
Well, it kind of depends on the show. So the show that I had at the Key, that was Jokes and Jazz, and so I worked with one of the best damn bands in the city, Harmonic Soul. Shout out to Geo. Shout out to Forte. Like, those brothers is fantastic. And so we did Jokes and Jazz, and that was it, man. Like, that venue, they had kind of reached out to me. They were looking to bring in, it was like their first week of being open. So they were looking to get foot traffic. They were trying to get, you know, a lot of people in there. So they reached out to me, and I said, man, let's do the Jokes and Jazz in here, because we were actually going to do it at another place a few weeks later, and then that things just kind of lined up, and that's what we did. So that particular spot, you know, we had a band, we had Funny Guy Fish, we had Freddie Simone doing the jokes, and of course Harmonic Soul doing the jazz. And so for that particular space, it was big, it was wide, and you can just kind of do whatever you want. Like, that was a little bit more free flowing, where people were, because it's music, you know, people were able to walk around and get the drinks and all of that. For improv, you want something maybe a little bit more intimate, right? So people can kind of focus in, or at least have a stage that's really present where people can focus in. So like with the show at the Attic, I think we did 90 people in that, for that particular show. And you know how the Attic is, it's a real small.
Wait, hold up. Y'all got 90 people in the Attic?
Yeah.
I thought it can only fit like 60.
No, man, you can do, honestly, I wouldn't go much more than 90, you know what I mean?
No,
85, 90. Yeah, I wouldn't do much more than 85, 90. They said that they could do maybe like even 10 to 15 more, and I was like, that looks a little too wild. But yeah, you can do. We did 90 for that show. We did 90.
Dang.
The Jokes and Jazz, that one was really great. We did 200 for the Jokes and Jazz. Like that one was a real vibe, you know.
Yeah. I honestly like obviously the Funny Bone, but
Mhm.
with I would say after the Funny Bone, it's definitely Neff and you that produce the most shows and produce quality shows.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Quality shows.
yeah. Shout out to Neff. Like, I actually got the pleasure. Neff and I'll be working with Neff here in a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I think when you're producing, it is one, work with good people. And like when I say that I'm putting these when I'm putting these shows together, I am working with good people. So like the improvisers that I work with, like I know everybody. My name is on the bill, but everybody who was a part of the show, I know they're professional. They're bringing it 100% of the time. And even so, like at the show that you were at, we had a little audio issue, and one of the microphones died. And so I was like, man, let me go grab a mic. And in the meantime, shout out to Karen Marie. Her and Krista decided that they were just going to start freestyle rapping. And so, like, no one knew, if you're in the audience, no one knew that that was not a part of the show. So, like, I had introduced everybody, and then the mic died. I was about to move into the next game or introducing, and then I watched the video back, and like Krista was like, yeah. And then so they just started freestyling. And so, like, from the audience perspective, that's what was supposed to happen. And it was great energy. It was dope. And so again, when you work with great people, like you can't fail. You can't fail when you work with great people. Everybody's a professional. They know what they're doing. They're funny. They've all been to shows themselves and saw what they liked and what they didn't like. And they're bringing that too. So,
Right.
It's definitely a collaborative thing. It's definitely a collaborative thing.
Yeah, because like you was like, you just came out of nowhere and you just started producing like hella shows. I'm like, who the fuck is this? And
Yeah.
then I got more interested in you when an incident happened, and I was like, all right, I'm a support him. I don't know if I want to talk about that, but maybe we'll talk about it later. Bro, that pissed. We should have talked about that before, but that pissed me off so much. I showed my fiance. I'm like, look at this bullshit, bro.
Man,
I'm like,
look.
how you gonna call this black man out in front of everybody and you black? I'm like,
Hey, look, man. It's a lot of what I've learned, man. It's wild, and you've been in the game long enough that like there's two things. One, you have people that have been in the game for a while and they maybe aren't as successful as they think they should be. So then immediately they want to hate on anybody else that's making a move, right? They want to gatekeep, your new artist, your new comic, or whatever. Instead of showing you how to do it and be like, hey man, like if you want to get on the show, this is how you get on the show. You want to produce, this is how you produce a show. No. They want to gatekeep and cock block and hate and do all of that because they don't like where they're at themselves. They want you to have the same weak ass struggle that they had. And then the other side is like you'll have people that you've worked with for a while, and it's one of those things where people will root for you while you're behind them. But when you're beside them or in front, they stop rooting for you. You know what I'm saying? They stop rooting for you. So you'll see those types of things, and you can't give any of that any energy. Like the incident I believe you're talking about. Like that was nothing to me. You know what I mean? Like I've dealt with way more serious things, and that that had no impact on what I was doing. Like like hey man, if you want to get booked, just say you want to get booked. Don't you know what I mean?
I think what pissed me off about it the most was because before coming into comedy, I didn't know how segregated it was. Just being in Columbus, I'm not saying that any other city isn't like this, but we just have a lot of, and maybe it's an Ohio thing, but we just have too many white comics who try to dress black or act black, and then they get booked, but then they don't actually book black people. And so unless it's like a safe hire. So for me, it's like the top producers out here are black men, and I just feel like all black comics just try to get behind that wheel and help further push that along, whether you're in the show or not. Like, just help, because it's like it's a struggle. And
Yeah.
like when I was in Cincinnati, I made a joke about it, but this white comic, he was like, "You guys have a lot of black comics," and I'm like, "We do?" Like, he was like, "They don't have any down there," and it's like, bro, we just have to like stick together like so much, and then it's like you could have just pulled somebody to the side for that. You ain't had to do all that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, it's yeah.
Yeah.
I just be trying to support as many black comics as I can, because I just know how segregated it is. Why,
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah.
It is interesting, and I will say, like, I think that is, I don't know why, but I feel like I've had a very good job. I've had a very good success in doing a lot of crossover, so like, and I think, I don't know. I think it's just because I'm, just being true to yourself, right? And being true, like realizing what's funny and what's not funny. So like, I've never really had, I feel like just honestly, just the way I grew up, right? I've been able to move in all of these different spots. So like,
Mhm.
being in the hood, I've had, Christmas in the hood. I've actually had Christmas in multi-million-dollar homes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way that I've moved and the people that because I just think that honestly, what you see is what you get all the time. This right here is me, and this is it. And
Yeah.
so just translating that and telling people, hey, man, I do comedy, come through, check it out. And like looking at the crowd, and you will see a lot of diversity. And the same thing with bringing different folks in. Like, like if I like your vibe, I like, let's do it. If it fits, then you just put it in,
Now, improv is a very interactive show.
Mm,
Um, and comedy can be at points, but mainly it's not. It's a one man or one woman monologue. So how do you like, is there like different parts of your brain that switch it on and off when it's improv and stand up? I mean, I know you can flow in and out both, but like,
mhm.
I mean, when you're doing an improv show, it's interactive with the audience the entire
Yeah,
time, whereas to stand up, you're basically talking to yourself out loud.
yeah, yeah. So with the improv, that's a real good question. I think there's two things. So when I'm building the show, producing the show, I'm making sure like the improv stuff like just works, right? Like, as I said, you're creating games, you're creating environments that people are going to enjoy. Um, and so I feel like I try to do a little bit of that even with my stand up, doing like the crowd work and all of that. But I think both of those things go hand in hand. So if you're doing an improv scene as a performer, you don't want to have a monologue locked in, because the scene might not go that way. Obviously, stand up, you have the monologue, you know what you're going to say. But being able to, like you said, just flowing in and out, it definitely helps with stand up because, like, when I'm doing some jokes, somebody might sneeze in the crowd, something might happen, and then you can now improvise off of that. Or even when I'm building my set, like I think that's one of the things that kind of helped me get into the stand up lane a little bit like faster, um, because I'm used to making jokes up on the spot, right? So now if I got some bullet points, like I'm going to talk about the police, I'm going to talk about my baby mom, I'm going to talk about this, like it's already there, and to even piggyback on what you were talking about before, like even some of the folks. So like when I started doing stand up, I wasn't getting a lot of love, right? So like I was trying to get booked for shows, and people weren't really, oh, you've only been doing stand up for a short period of time. You don't have enough time. You can't do 10 minutes or whatever. And it's like, dog, you've been making up stuff on the spot for the last 4 years. I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
I can put together a 7 minute set, a 10 minute set. And so um I just booked myself. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm not getting booked. So I threw the 670 East show. I did that at Adela's, and we had 65 people in there. I brought in Shayna, Xavier Dunson, my man Anthony Windsor, Goody P Yum Yum, and we just rocked. And but that improv absolutely helps because if you get off track, you can always flow to the improv until you get your wits and then, oh yeah, this is what I was talking about. Get back in the material. So
Now, I don't know if this is just in our city or if it's just worldwide, but why do you think it's such a divide between the people that do improv and stand-up comedy, and the parallels that I see is kind of like the old comics that are, that have made it, and then they get mad because somebody blow up as an internet comic. It's
Hmm.
still in the same vein of comedy.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I mean, it's all hard. Like if somebody was a dude,
Hmm.
if somebody stopped doing stand-up and did improv, they would have the muscle for it and have years of experience, but they would still struggle. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
don't like, if anybody switches to go to one side, like instead of doing stand up and just do acting and did comedy movies, it's still going to be like, either way, it's still going to be difficult. So I don't understand, what's the division? Like, in your opinion, why is there a division between, stand up comics and people that do improv?
Cornball shit. You know what I mean? People that aren't happy, people that have decided that, they're not where they want to be ultimately. So then they want to, shit on other people, basically, is what it is. Because
Bing
it is
bong.
entertainment. It's entertainment, baby. It's like, you know what I mean? So I'm making you laugh. You're making me laugh, whether I'm doing improv or I'm doing stand up. I actually was at an open mic, and there's a new comic, and she actually does poetry. She integrates poetry in her sets. And I was listening to one of these older comics. It was kind of telling like, "Oh, you need to dump the poetry, da 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 da." And it's like, that's fucking stupid, man. Like the poems are funny. Like she's a good comic. Obviously she's new. You can integrate that. Like you don't
Mhm.
have to be, like some of these people, they want to just, I'm a 5-star comic and this is what I've done. So you have to do that. No,
Yeah.
like if you can play the guitar and tell jokes, man, integrate that shit into your set. Because at the end of the day, and I think this is where I think Neff, myself, m- as a producer, as a performer, I'm not performing for comics. I'm not performing for improvisers. Comics, here's a message. If you're producing a show, comics, improvisers, whatever show that you're throwing, a musician, your guitarists are not going to come to your show. The people that are going to come to the show are regular on the street folks. Those are the people that are going to pay to come see you. If you do a stand up show, you'll have comics that might show up, and there's a tendency maybe they just want to think, oh, I would do it differently. I would do it this way or whatever. But that's not what my goal is. I want to bring in people who've never been to a show before. I want people who are regular, everyday people. If you bring in, if you bring a comic to your show, they're not going to buy a ticket to your next show, probably, right? But if you invite the dude that you used to work with, and he's always wanted to be a comic, and he sees you on stage doing that shit, he's going to be amazed. He's going to be at every one of your shows. So that's what it is,
Next.
man. It's just it's entertainment, whether it be improv, whether it be music, whether it be poetry, it's all ultimately the same. So there's no reason to hate. And I actually learned a lot of my movements, like as far as production, from music. So like I look at some of the music artists and how they produce shows and how they go about, doing stuff. I've learned a ton. Sam Rothstein, shout out to him. Like I've learned a lot of show production and marketing from him, and he does, mostly music. So it's all the same, man. It's entertainment.
Bing
That's
bong.
what people are here. They want to have a good time for 90 minutes. That's what it is.
So instead of hate, participate. All right,
That's it.
cool. Got
That's it.
it.
That's it. That's it.
Anybody that for anybody that is that where I was gonna go next? Yeah, I'm gonna go there. All right. As we start to wrap it up here shortly, um, who is on your Mount Rushmore for comedy?
Hmm. All right. I always
And
love
you
that
can
one.
include improv people too. Like, I don't know none of them, but
To improv, so I think that's funny because improv, you got Wayne Brady, right? He's the only black improviser that you know, and Keegan Michael Peel or Keegan Michael
yeah,
Keegan,
yeah,
whatever.
Keegan Michael
I'm fucked
Key.
up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He is
He's
hilarious, man. He
he is
is
hilarious.
freaking
He's
hilarious.
hilarious. Those are the two black improvisers anyone knows, right? But those dudes are just wildly talented.
Yeah.
But on my Mount Rushmore, like I said, growing up, I was just stand up nerd. So Norm Macdonald, Rodney Dangerfield, Chappelle, um, uh, Don Rickles, um, uh, of course. I don't know who else. Who did I miss? But like just all of that. A lot of those old school dudes, Red Fox. Like I got into comedy when I was probably about like 7 or 8 years old, and my mom had a cassette with Richard Pryor on it. So I was like 6, 7 years old listening to Richard Pryor on cassette. None of the shit was appropriate for a 6 or 7 year old, and I didn't even know what all he was talking about, but I
Yeah.
just knew it was funny. You know what I mean? The way he was telling the story, and so I just like just loved it. I would just at that point, but um so I got to give you four for Mount Rushmore.
I
I'm
think
gonna
that was
say,
4.
yeah. Did I get four?
At
Norm
least 4.
Macdonald. Yeah, at least four. I love Norm Macdonald. Dave Chappelle is insane. Um, Pryor and Rodney Dangerfield. I don't know
Yeah.
that
I
shit changes every day. Every day. So
I still have a prior vinyl that I haven't listened to. I need to listen to it. I need to listen
yeah,
to it.
Chris
So
Rock. How can I forget Chris Rock? I love Chris Rock. I love Chris Rock.
for anybody that wants to get into comedy, rather it be improvise
Mhm.
or rather it be stand up, what type of advice would you give to them? And not even if somebody that wants to get into it, somebody that's in it already, stuck in a rut, or anybody that's in stand up that want to come over, to do improv, what type of
Yeah,
advice or motivation would you give to anybody that, wants to get into it?
yeah. The best advice I can give is to just do it. So like as far as stand up, I stood on the sidelines for a while. I was just like kind of nervous, kind of intimidated by it, and I wish I had jumped in and did it sooner. That is the advice. Just fucking do it. Like you might not do it very well, your first set, your first month, your whatever. But if you like doing it, just do it. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
Especially, you're doing an open mic or like for improv, there's an improv meetup at Gresso's every Thursday. Um, it's all low stakes. It's all low stakes, and you have nothing to lose. If you want to move from improv to playing the guitar to, stand up or whatever, just do it. Just
yeah,
simply do it. Like I said, my first improv, my first stand-up show, like I said, I wasn't getting, I'd asked a couple of folks and I wasn't really getting put on. So I said, fuck it, man, I'm gonna throw my own show. Through my
yeah.
own show. And then the person that I wanted to get on their show, they actually asked me to book them for one of my shows. You know what I mean?
Did you put them on?
So no, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. You know what I mean? Maybe we might get there. I don't know. It hasn't happened yet.
I'll
But
be like, hey man, I'm full for the next 6 months. And when I
yeah,
need you, I'm
yeah.
gonna reach out.
But like, but I will say, man, like a lot of, and the reason why I say just jump in and do it is because we've talked obviously about some of the assholes in the game, right? But I would say by far and large, the communities on all sides of entertainment are very welcoming. They're very welcoming. Like you meet good people like yourself, Xavier Dunson, Shayna, like those people. Like when my very first open mic, Ty Moore. How can I not? Ty Moore. He was the comedian who went on before my very first open mic. And then when I got off the stage, he had some things to say, positive things to say. Oh man, it's your first time, just warming. Same with Xavier. But there's plenty of good people, man, and they're willing to, if they're not willing to help you, or they're not willing to give you some information, they're probably not anybody that you want to talk to anyway. You know what I mean? There's so much
Yeah,
love out there. Anybody, if you want to produce a show and you can talk to anybody, I'll show you what I've done, what has worked for me, what has not worked for me. And the same thing with improv. And improv is one thing. I will say this, so a lot of times people are a little put off on improv because you have to take classes, or you think you got to pay $100 or whatever, 6-week classes. You don't necessarily need to do that. Like I said, there's a free improv meetup at Gresso's every Thursday. You can just go in there and just kick it. It's like a pickup game. It's like an open mic. You just kind of play with it. Every show that I do, the first 2 weeks are open to anybody. So like, if you tell me like, hey man, I was thinking about improv. If I got a show coming up, come to my practice and you can watch, or you can jump in and just get a vibe for it. Cause you don't have to pay for those classes. The classes are helpful. You can get some things from them, but like if that is that factor, if that's the thing that's kind of pushing you off, or you're afraid, because stand up, like you can go to open mic and just get on and whatever. Improv, not everyone knows that you can just do it, and it's so welcoming. It's a safe environment. Everybody's cool. Ain't nobody gonna boo you and say your improv is bad, or none of that shit happens. But yeah, just do it. That's the message. Just do it.
Terrance, tell people why they should listen to Comedians in Bed.
Well, you should listen to Comedians in Bed primarily because this is the only comedy show that has cats on the border. Right? There are comedy shows. There's all types of podcasts everywhere, but you'll never see cats wearing do-rags. It's not something that you see every day. And I know that's not the listening part, but you can actually hear it. You know what I mean? Sonically, those cats are translating. You know what I mean? That's it.
Would it be weird if I had cats, like a cat sound on here meowing? Would that be a little weird?
I think you should go with it, man. You know what I mean? Be true to yourself. You know what I mean? Don't let the haters on the outside, you know what I mean? Be true to yourself. If you feel like you need cats meowing, then you need cats meowing.
Hey, my fault. I forgot to introduce you. So this one right here, that's Kiki. And then this one is Greg. That's Greg.
Well, shout out Greg. Shout out to Greg and Kiki.
Man, tell people where they can find you at, man.
Hey, you can find me out in the street. You know what I mean? You can find me in the Whole Foods. You know what I mean? Whole Foods is great. Black people can't get into Whole Foods unless you have a white person. A white person has to vouch for you in order for you to get into Whole Foods. So that's why it's not very many of us in there, But you can find me at Whole Foods, probably handing out flyers for my next Black Friday show. You can see me online, The God Show, THAGAWD, or The Whole Damn Show Pro on Instagram. But The God Show is the same on all platforms. My Xbox handle, all of that, Venmo, Cash App, whatever. It's The God Show. You see it, it's here somewhere. That's it. You can find me there.
Hey man, make sure you definitely go ahead and give them a follow. If you want to see next week's episode live, you can go ahead. We stream every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on my YouTube channel at TYE Comedy. Once again, that is TYE Comedy. And finally, we have an Instagram page at Comedians in Bed Podcast. So make sure you go ahead and give us a follow. Tell us you loved it, whatever. Leave us a review, subscribe, share it, drop it in the group chat, all that. Terrance ThaGawdShow joined us here today. I think we used all of the tracks.
You done lost your damn mind.
Okay, we did. We didn't use it. We didn't lose them all. All right, but go ahead, man. Subscribe to Comedians in Bed. Check out Terrance ThaGawdShow Davis. It's a good show, man. I'm not just saying that because you're on the show. I've seen it live in person. You guys won't waste your money at all, man. We will see you next week. We appreciate Terrance being on the show, man. We'll see you guys next week, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.